Hello viewers, welcome to this particular lecture on microbiology. In this particular lecture, I shall be discussing some aspects of airborne pathogenic fungi and the harm caused by them. This is the second lecture. In this particular lecture, I shall be discussing some aspects of unicellular Ascomycetes fungi, and then I shall get into the filamentous or mycelial Ascomycetes fungi, and finally I shall conclude with a unicellular yeast-like Basidiomycetes fungi. In each of these groups, I shall be discussing their character, in what way they are harmful, their pathway of infection, and how we can prevent or treat them. To start with, the first fungi or the fungus in this group is the Coccidioides immitis, which is belonging to Ascomycota, and the class is Euascomycetes. The order is Onygenalis, the family is Onygenaceae, and the genus is Coccidioides and the species immitis. This is characterized by unique grayish or blue-gray color colony with concentric rings when they are grown in suboroid agar medium. This particular fungi actually exhibit a unique dimorphism. This dimorphism is mainly in the form of filamentous cells at 25 degrees centigrade, and these cells may produce typically swollen tip, which we commonly call racket fungi or racket mycelia or racket hyphae, and then there are these arthroconidia, which are having some intermediate blank cells which are called disjunctor cells, meaning these disjunctor cells help in the liberation of this arthroconidia so that they can come out of the hyphae. But when this particular fungi is grown in 37 degrees centigrade, which is equivalent to human body, they will produce distinct thick-walled spherule, and this spherule will be having endospores, and this particular condition is ideal to survive in human body and cause infection.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is spherule formation associated with high carbon dioxide concentration?
You see, as I told you, that spherule is mostly formed in human blood or human body. So in all parts of the human body you will not get oxygen. So there will be more carbon dioxide generated, or anaerobic condition is there. So the spherule formation is a structure which is associated with low oxygen concentration. To meet this stress, spherule formation is there. Whereas when they are producing arthroconidia, they are more into aerobic state. Clear?
Yes.
Now there are two types of cycle. One is the saprophytic cycle, one is the parasitic cycle. Of course, the saprophytic cycle is associated with the soil, and there the soil will produce the arthrospore, and the arthrospores will come inside the human body, and this cycle or the parasitic cycle is initiated, and which may go up to 7 to 21 days, and this life cycle is completed, and then again these spores may come out of the human host, maybe with the air that we breathe out also, and that will be invading other people. But normally once inside the body, they can colonize in different internal organ and spend a long time. Now inside the body, they may produce some distinct thick-walled arthrospore, which can be easily stained with normal lactophenol, or it can also be stained with methylene blue. But there is a very nice stain, which is the silver staining or Gomori methylamine silver staining, where distinctly you can stain the spherule and you can identify this particular fungus. So in other words, this particular fungus can be identified on the basis of their spore structure, also on the basis of the tissue biopsy, where you can see these colonies. Now coming to their symptoms, actually there are different types of symptoms. It may be associated with fever, continuous fever, loss of body weight. Sometimes there may be profuse severe sweating at times, and when we go for X-ray, because of this breathing distress, there might be some swelling in the hilar region of the lung, which is commonly called hilar adenopathy. This hilar adenopathy, mind you, is also associated with tubercular infection. So we have to check whether the fungus is there through tissue culture or through staining. Okay. Now, apart from that, there are specific risk factors. They will show specific risk factor, like in a pregnant woman, this infection is more. Sometimes in infant or in child, the infection may be devastating, or in HIV patient, it may be devastating. People who are taking anti-cancer drug, normally they are called anti-tumor necrotic factor blocker. They are blocking these two types of receptor, P55 and P75 receptor blocker, and because these receptors are blocked, naturally the disease development may be faster. Now it is also there that this particular disease can develop in specific human race, like the Filipinos are more exposed to this type of infection, or sometimes it is a common problem associated with old age. So let us come about their treatment. Now, apart from prevention, treatment can be done with common ketoconazole, which are azoles, or it can be itraconazole, which are straight away inhibiting the cell wall biosynthesis. It can also be treated with caspofungin. Caspofungin actually is preventing the formation of beta-1,3 glucan linkage, and thereby this particular fungal cell wall is inhibited. Because this beta-1,3 glucan synthesis doesn't take place in human body, it can be a choicest drug in preventing fungal cell wall biosynthesis or treating this fungal infection. Now, apart from that, this is also a very good drug, amphotericin B, which can be used in preventing the cell wall biosynthesis in this fungi, and you can see it is actually causing multiple action. It is either binding to ergosterol, or it is binding to specific ROS generating activity, or at the same time it is causing protein inhibition. So there may be different types of activity of this amphotericin by which they can prevent the development and sporulation of Coccidioides immitis. It can be a very choicest drug, though there can be some side effect in human host. Coming to the next important fungi, which is also a unicellular yeast-like Ascomycota, and it is of course belonging to the same order, that is Onygenelis, and the family is Onygenaceae, and the genus is now called Agelomyces, but more commonly it is called Histoplasma capsulatum. And this particular Histoplasma capsulatum occurs in the form of rounded vesicles or sporangia, and they will give rise to spores, minute spores, which are liberated out from the sporangia, and they can actually remain in the soil. They can remain in the soil associated with bird and bat dropping, right?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are bird droppings natural habitat of Histoplasma capsulatum?
You see, it is because the Histoplasma pathogen may be there in the bird's body or in the cloaca. So when the dropping is coming out, it may contain Histoplasma. It is not only in bird, it is also present in bat dropping. So preventing contact with bird or bat may prevent this infection. Now coming to this Histoplasma entry, the Histoplasma, as I told you, will actually enter through the respiratory tract. These spores are entering and they will straight away get into the macrophages, and they will colonize inside the macrophage, and instead of preventing, they will be spreading into blood. So it becomes a blood-borne infection later on. And as I told you, these are the certain organs which are mostly affected by Histoplasma, which include the outer larynx, the inner trachea, and the lower trachea, and the lung. Entire lung tree along with alveoli may be showing colonization of Histoplasma, and the disease is histoplasmosis. And this is a very common symptom. Apart from having breathing distress, there may be some other symptoms like pneumonia. There may be fibrous mediastinitis, that is the fibrous outgrowth in the mediastinum, and there may be swelling of the veins. Particularly it is called superior vena cava syndrome. So these are also very common in case of Histoplasma infection. And as I told you, because it is present in bird dropping, people working in poultry farms, they are particularly affected because of the contact with the poultry birds. And they get into the body and cause this histoplasma infection.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, are smokers affected by histoplasma infection?
Smokers are affected because smoker will show cavity formation in the lung. Commonly, that particular cavity will be having colonization. So, emphysema is a very common symptom. Cavitation is there and there will be histoplasma colonization. So, they are more affected by histoplasma. Now, how it is prevented? Histoplasma can be prevented by different types of antifungal drug, which include the azole, and mainly they are preventing the synthesis of ergosterol. They can also be treated with flucytosine, which is actually forming or inhibiting the formation of RNA. It can be treated with griseofulvin, which is inhibiting the spindle formation or cell division. And of course, it is actually treated with this particular nystatin, or it is treated with amphotericin, which is inhibiting ergosterol biosynthesis. So, different drugs can be given depending upon the physician. The drug is usually chosen. Okay. Now, we come to a group of fungi which are no longer unicellular, but they are mycelial, thread-like. And one such important fungi is Alternaria. And Alternaria belong to same Ascomycetes, but it is belonging to Dothidiomycetes, that is the class. The order is Pleosporalis, the family is Pleosporaceae, and the genus is Alternaria, and the species is Alternata. Of course, previously it was considered under Deuteromycetes because it was not having any sexual structure, but later on it was found out that sexual structure is there, and now it has been shifted to Ascomycetes. Now, they actually reproduce by this chain of spores called conidia. And these multicellular conidia are cut off in chains, and they can be cut off at any point by air current, and they can be inhaled with the respiratory air. And this inhalation will result in the infection of the respiratory tract, and there will be breathing distress. So, very often airborne culture or airborne spores, when they are trapped in the, say, agar medium, the potato dextrose agar medium, they will grow into black or dark grey or green colonies, which is ideally understood for Alternaria. And ideally, as I told you, it causes the specific disease of vegetables. One such vegetable is potato. It is causing the typical disease of early blight. So, Alternaria solani causes the early blight disease, which is affecting the tuber and spreading into the leaves and causing the leaves to droop down. And this type of symptom is present in the early age of the potato plant, and it can sustain, it can remain till the potato is matured. So, it can also cause damage to vegetables, and at the same time, those rotten vegetables can be the persistent source of future spore affecting human. Now, coming to human symptom, they may show different types of symptom, and these symptoms can be actually in the form of specific allergic lesion in the skin, localized distinct lesion. It can be in the form of spores in the mucus or mucoidal disintegration or mucoidal blockage, and it is actually producing some toxin which is in the form of alternarin or alternariol, which is causing multiple symptoms in human body, including allergy, including bronchial spasm, including fever, and this is altogether it is called alternariosis. And it is normally treated mostly by systemic antifungal drug, but as I told you, there may be some specific side effects. So, it is always better suggested that you prevent the prevention is better than cure. You prevent the contact. Another one is the Cladosporium, which is also a mycelial airborne fungi. It belongs to Ascomycota and Dothidiomycetes, the class. Order is Dothidialis, and the family is Mycosphaeraceae, and the genus is Cladosporium, and the species of course is Cladosporioides. There may be other species as well. This particular fungus is characterized by a specific filamentous mycelia which is segmented, and it produces a crown of spore, and these spores are produced so dense they can easily be cut off by air current, and in the same way they may be transmitted to skin, or they may get into the mucus causing colony formation or infection. And as a matter of fact, this particular infection can actually be localized like in the skin of the nail. They can get into the nail and causing severe darkening or infection of the nail, and this type of infection can lead to destruction of the entire nail, and sometimes it can get into the skin, it becomes bloodborne. Apart from that, it can also get into the hair or the scalp, causing severe infection of the scalp, causing loss of hair, localized lesion, severe infection. And
I have a question, sir. Why do Cladosporium generate VOCs?
Yeah, that is a good question. I was coming to that. Apart from causing infection, Cladosporium, they metabolize nitrogen in a different way, and they produce some volatile organic compound containing benzene from this nitrogen, and this VOC can be infectious in the sense they will cause systemic toxicity in human body. So thereby not direct infection, they can also cause damage with respect to blocking the central nervous system. And naturally, when the disease is getting deep inside the body, it is very difficult to be cured. There are some azole treatment like fluconazole, but again also I am telling that it is better that if we can avoid contact from this particular dreadful fungus. Coming to the next one, which is of course a yeast-like unicellular fungus, but it belongs to Basidiomycota cryptococcus. Cryptococcus belong to Tremolomycetes, order is Tremolalis, family is Tremolaceae, and the genus is Cryptococcus, and the species is Neoformans. But we see in tropical countries there are 3 subspecies which are equally important. They are the Neoformans, Grubby, and the Gatty. So these are all very common species affecting human beings. And you can see these are the colonies of Cryptococcus. Clearly they are grayish white colony. They can be stained by crystal violet, so they can take up ground stain, and they appear like yeast, typically rounded chain-like structure. And this is a unique life cycle where you can see that this particular mycelia, which is producing a single nucleus which is haploid in nature, they actually produce a dikaryon appearing, and then this dikaryon will definitely produce the basidia. But mind you, each basidia will have one single nucleus, and then the basidia will germinate to produce the mycelia again. So in this particular stage, we see 3 types of cycle. One is of course the production of monokaryon, then getting into dikaryon, and then getting into the normal monokaryon again. So monokaryon, dikaryon, and dikaryotization followed by monokaryon again will alternate in the life cycle. And this is the typical basidia, because previously it was thought to be Ascomycetes because it is yeast-like, but this type of structure definitely indicate that it is a Basidiomycota. And sometimes when it is having severe environmental condition, it develop typical capsule formed of polysaccharide. This is how it is protected from the severe environmental hazard. And it can be stained, as I told you. Typically you can stain it with gram stain, but this is an ideal stain where you can use the Musi carmine stain, and you can clearly stain the capsule, and thereby you can prove that this is a particular Cryptococcus colony. Of course, taking the tissue, culturing the fungus, seeing the morphology, you can identify. But if it is deep inside the brain, then the identification has to be done by CT scan. And this is a unique photograph where you can see the fungal colony. Look at it. This is the fungal colony which has grown inside the brain, and this is formed of Cryptococcus. It is a absolute fatal disease. Nothing can be done in this state. And this is a cat brain where you can see deep lesions are developing. So this is also a fatal disease, but in lower mammal, not in human. And these are typical superficial symptoms where you can see these boils. Apparently you will find that this is similar to bacterial boil, acne, but these acne are actually the pustules formed because of Cryptococcus infection. And the infection spread in blood because it is getting inside the macrophage. So macrophage is a very common tool for fungal pathogen. And as I told you, it can remain successfully as a parasite in the body. How? Because it is producing monokaryon fruit body. So it is not requiring another mycelia. A single mycelia will grow, will reproduce and again grow. So it is a vicious cycle which is completed within the body without any hazard. So it is a successful pathogen. And this type of pathogenicity where there is monokaryon fruiting is brought about by this DMC1 protein. And DMC1 factor, because it is active in Cryptococcus, the pathogenicity is higher. Now coming to the treatment, like any other typical unicellular pathogenic fungi, it can be treated with fluconazole. And this is how it is blocked. It is blocking the ergosterol biosynthesis. But there is a unique drug which is the flucytosine. And the flucytosine actually get inside the cell through permease and it is getting into the RNA and thereby it is inhibiting fungal transcription. And this is a unique thing. You can see this is the structure of cytosine and this is the flucytosine. So it is a structural analog of cytosine where this flucytosine will be replacing the cytosine in the fungal RNA or fungal DNA. And thereby the fungal growth or development or division is arrested. Okay? This is also a good drug, amphotericin B, like other fungi. But the most important thing is how this drug is delivered at the site of infection. Thereby, there are some mechanisms which are patented product. They are called liposomes. So there are unique liposomes where the drug is infested inside the liposome vehicle or vesicle and transported directly via blood to the site of infection. It can either be impregnated in the membrane or it can be inside the membrane, embedded in the membrane, or it can be in concentric layers. So the treatment is very successful when the drug is reaching the target site. That is why this delivery of amphotericin B is of utmost importance, which also will reduce side effects in human host. So in this particular lecture, we have discussed different unicellular yeast-like fungus. We have discussed some pathogenic mycelial Ascomycetes fungus and their infection and control. And finally, we have concluded with the unique Basidiomycetes yeast-like fungus and their control. Thank you.